Hello, students. This is Mr. Sandwich, and you are listening to Mr. Sandwich Reads. I wanted to share with you today a little bit about characterization in Stargirl. If you've been following along, then I think just after chapter 5 or chapter 6 is a good place to kind of stop and look at the characters, look at the setting, and I'll look at the setting in another segment. Right now, I want to look at the characters. Um, just before we meet Archie, by the way, I'll talk a little bit more about Archie another time, but I want to look at the students of Micah High School. What we're looking for when we're identifying characterization is what is it that the character says that shows their personality or attributes? What does the character do? What are their actions? And then we can also go, especially when we have Leo narrating to us, we can go based off of what others say about that character. And we have to ask ourselves, do we trust the narrator here? So Leo, how would I describe Leo Borlock? He's observant. He's curious. Maybe he's bashful. He certainly seems to be embarrassed as Stargirl starts to approach his direction with the ukulele. Non-confrontational. He at one point says that it was uncomfortable after him and Kevin are arguing, which made me think, well, maybe he doesn't like to argue. We know based on his production, being the producer director of the hot seat, that he, unlike Kevin, who's in front of the camera, Leo's more behind the scenes. And that may say something about his personality. And to go along with observant, to take some text evidence, I said on page 16, I used the quote, "I observed her as if she were a bird in an aviary." And later he follows behind, or maybe it's the same chapter. I think in chapter 3 is when Leo is following Stargirl. He's curious. He's watchful. So Leo is still kind of not decided here. Expect him to be a dynamic, changing character as the story goes on. And one of my favorite little tools that a writer might use, and Shakespeare used this a lot, is something called aptronym, which means the name is fitting for some reason. And I had just pieced this together, but in my mind, at the beginning of the story, Leo is really talking about how everyone's the same, how everybody does the same thing. Wayne Parr kind of sets that standard. And he's kind of locked into routine. So we could think of Borlock as being like locked into boredom. He's experiencing the same thing day to day until Stargirl arrives, and she kind of breaks that routine up. So he's no longer locked into boredom here, but Borlock reminded me that he's kind of surrounded by monotony, the same thing day in and day out. We take a look at Stargirl, and she is carefree, she's unique, she's spirited. And I used a couple quotes here from page 4. No one sat with her, but at the tables next to hers, kids were cramming two to a seat. She didn't seem to notice. She seemed marooned in a sea of staring, buzzing faces. So even though people are watching, nobody wants to sit with her. She doesn't care. She's not bogged down with other people's thoughts. She does her own thing, and we see that perfectly when she joined the cross-country team. Red flags showed the runners the way to go. In her first meet, out in the middle of the course, she turned left when everyone else turned right. It goes on, she was dismissed from the team. So Stargirl, both literally and figuratively, is going her own way, going her own direction. She's not influenced by others. She is her own unique person. And then I realized the name Caraway is kind of like care plus away, or away with having cares. She is carefree. She's not having a care. And so Caraway, I thought, was an aptronym for the character Stargirl. We've got Kevin, and I'll fly through the rest of these characters pretty quickly, as they're sort of secondary characters. He's what we need to know is Kevin is Leo's friend. He's a bit more judgmental and critical, and I liked the word sensationalistic. He is looking for a story. He wants to uncover or expose Stargirl for being part of sort of one of Hillary Kimball's theories, many theories. He's looking for a story. He wants to put her on the hot seat. And he says on page 8, "As usual, Mr. Director, you fail to see the whole picture. We could use the show to expose her. Can't you see it?" He did the marquee thing with his hands. "Hot seat uncovers faculty hoax. Our ratings will go sky high." It also tells us, Leo says, "We had been best friends since arriving in Arizona the same week 4 years before." That also tells us a little bit about the setting, that a lot of people move to Micah. It's not a place where a lot of people were born and raised. It's a new, flourishing city. Quinn means 5. I don't know if there's significance to that. That's something I'm paying attention to. I don't know if the name Kevin Quinlan is an aptronym or not. It's an odd number, so maybe he feels like the odd man out. I don't know. Something we'll look at as the story goes on. Hillary Kimball is snobby, gossipy. She's angry most of the time, it seems. The episode that became known as the Hillary hoax took place in her sophomore year when she tried out for cheerleading. Her face and hair and figure were right enough, and she surely had the mouth. She made the squad easily. And then she stunned everyone by turning it down. And so there we see she wants the attention, but she doesn't actually have the school spirit. She's just kind of doing it to say she could do it. Based on Leo's description of her face and hair and figure, it seems she's maybe pretty enough, or I guess maybe superficial would actually be an adjective for her, based on appearances. Hillary, another quote on page 27, Hillary paused, her eyes narrowed, she dabbed her fingers in Stargirl's face. Don't try singing to me, I'm warning you. And that kind of showed her angry side. And then I love this description here. Hillary was first to enter. She marched in, leading her girlfriends like an invading general. In the moonlight, she smacked her items onto her tray. She glared at the cashier. It's not very friendly. And I don't know if there is an aptronym for Hillary Kimball or not. We'll come back to that. Wayne par. Now, there is an aptronym for par, which I love, which par, especially in golf, means like to perform as expected or to do average, to do as others do. So Wayne par really symbolizes, more of a symbol than a character, the status quo, or what's considered normal or conventional. Conformity would be the word I would use, of just fitting in. That is Wayne Parr's role. Wayne Parr did not go to football and basketball games, and by and large, neither did we. Wayne Parr did not ask questions in class or get worked up over teachers or pep rallies, and neither did we. Wayne Parr did not much care, neither did we. Apathetic is a good word for bored or not caring. He's shallow or superficial. Wants to be a male model. Okay, so I think that's all the characters now, but I think after Chapter 5 is a good place to stop and review characters. So I do hope that was helpful to you. Again, if you haven't subscribed to Mr. Sandwich Reads, please do so, and stay in touch. All right, peace.